Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Epic Sports Broadcasting Network for this week's highlights from the Historical Baseball Project 1993 replay featuring the Cincinnati Reds and the Texas Rangers. My name is Dave Little, and we are recording from the Dave Cave with highlights from games played between July 1st and July 15th of 1993. If you've been keeping up with the broadcasts, you know that the Historical Baseball Project is a group of guys who go back and replay all of the seasons in Major League Baseball history. So each team plays its home games. And I am operating the 1993 Cincinnati Reds and the Texas Rangers for this season. And with that, we will get into your statistics. And we will start things off with a special surprise. Check out this box score. This is a perfect game authored by Nolan Ryan on the road at California on June the 16th. Ryan went the distance to defeat the California Angels 13-0. The game was never really in doubt. But for Nolan Ryan, it was 27 up and 27 down. No runs, no hits, no errors, 6 strikeouts, and a very handy 85 pitch count for the Rangers as Ryan goes the distance and authors a perfect game. How about that, sports fans? Let's take a look at the American League summary. This is through the end of June before we pick up this week's games on July 1st. Through the end of June, you can see that the Rangers stand at 40-38. They're in the middle of the pack in the AL West, but really the top 5 teams and really the top 6 teams, if you count Minnesota, all still have a shot to make a run in the West and come up with the division championship. It was the Chicago White Sox who actually won the division in 1993. In the East, the Orioles, the Yankees, and the Blue Jays all stand atop the standings with Cleveland and Boston and Detroit still on the outskirts of that race. But now let's take a look at the individual performances in the American League and look at Ken Griffey Jr. He is almost a Triple Crown candidate. 340 batting average, 34 home runs, 84 RBIs. And he is followed closely in the MVP race by Juan Gonzalez. Our own Texan Juan Gonzalez, 339, 65 runs batted in, 33 homers. So these two guys are just tearing it up in the 1993 American League. On the pitching side, we've got 3 different guys with 11 wins and ERAs of 2.81 or less. Chuck Finley is on the top of the heap, Alex Fernandez close behind, and Kevin Appier in the mix also. If we want to take a look at the Texas statistics, here we have it. The offense has picked things up. They now have 3 regulars above 300 on the season, including Gonzalez, as we've talked about. Almost a Triple Crown pace if it wasn't for that Griffey dude up in Seattle tearing the cover off the ball. David Hulse at 308. Rafael Palmeiro, very steady, 302. 17 home runs, 57 RBIs, and of course the big power numbers from Dean Palmer, who's got the batting average up to 255 and looking good with 23 home runs, 64 RBIs. The pitching lines for Texas are still mediocre at best. Kevin Brown has finally got his ERA below 5, but he's still got the losing record. And the unfavorable innings pitched to hits ratio. Kenny Rogers continues to struggle at 5.57. Roger Pavlik 3.57 by way of an ERA and an 8-3 record to lead the team, surprisingly. Now, for the fortnight of July the 1st through the 15th, the Rangers spent that entire time in 1993 on the road. So we have no highlights for Texas Rangers games this week. And let's head to the Cincinnati Reds and the National League. In the National League, the Reds stand at 39 and 42, which is exactly the pace that they were on in the real life 1993 season. The NL West has quickly evolved into a two-team race with the Braves and Giants on top of the division and everybody else lagging behind. In the East, Philadelphia is on top, with Chicago and Montreal kind of hanging around on the outskirts and everybody else below 500 in the East. The top individual performer to check out has got to be this guy, Barry Bonds, who is number 5 in the league with a .347 batting average, 26 home runs, 74 runs batted in. So he's a top 5 performer in all 3 major offensive categories. Phil Plantier continues to lead the league in home runs. He's got 30. And Mitch Williams with a very stellar 78 RBIs. Love Mitch Williams. Fun to watch him hit. And on the pitching side, Bill Swift is tearing it up with an ERA of 2.11 and 12 victories to lead the league. Jeff Reardon from Cincinnati in the top 5 with 15 saves. As we take a look at the Reds' individual statistics, Kevin Mitchell is resting for July for the most part. He'll get the occasional pinch hit appearances. He still has the .379 batting average to lead the league, but he will not qualify for consideration for the batting title. Among the regulars, Roberto Kelly and Hal Morris are up over 300 for the season. And Reggie Sanders is putting together a fine campaign, .270 on the season, 14 home runs and 48 RBI to lead Cincinnati. And on the mound, Jose Rijo comes in at 7-5 with a 3.02 ERA to lead the club. Tim Belcher had that sub-2 ERA going for a while. He's come back down to earth. Tim Pugh continues to catch lightning in a bottle for the Reds. He's 7-3 with a 4.24 ERA on the season. And with that, we will head to the Reds highlights. They only had one 4-game series at home for the fortnight, and that brought to town the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's shrink that down, and we'll do two games at a time. The opening game of the week was on July 2nd, as the Reds picked up the opening game victory by a score of 5-3. It was Tom Browning who provided a stellar pitching performance and also an RBI on a squeeze bunt, as the Reds sparked a 4-run fourth inning. A 2-run double by Joe Oliver and a squeeze bunt by Browning gave him the run support he needed to defeat the Pirates in the series opener. It got off to a rough start for Browning, as in the top of the first he walked the bases loaded and then escaped from that jam without allowing a run. Pittsburgh took a 3-0 lead in the fourth on 4 straight 2-out hits, but Cincinnati scored that 4 runs in the bottom of the inning to take the lead to stay. Browning went 6 innings and then turned it over to the bullpen, and Jeff Reardon came on to record his 16th save. Big night for Chris Sabo, 4 for 5 RBIs. Sabo was hot for this entire series for the Reds. On July 3rd, it was the Reds losing to the Pirates by a score of 11-7, and it was shoddy defense that proved costly to the Reds in this one. They committed 3 errors, leading to 4 unearned runs. After the Reds fell behind early, they were able to pull to within 6 to a 7-5 score. But in the 8th inning, it was Sabo who kicked away a potential inning-ending double play ball, and the Pirates capitalized on that to pick up 4 insurance runs and put the game out of reach. On July 4th, it was fireworks at Riverfront Stadium for the Reds as they put up a 12-1 victory. I never seem to get that straight. Here we go. The Reds picked up a 12-1 victory, took out their frustrations with some 4th of July fireworks. 17 hits on the night, 4 runs in the 3rd, 4 more runs in the 4th, put this one away early. 2 home runs for Thomas Howard. Reggie Sanders added a homer and a triple. And once again, Tim Pugh was the beneficiary of the big offensive explosion. Pugh went the distance and came within 2 outs of a shutout to pick up his team-leading 8th win of the season. And in the final game, July 5th, the Reds had another 17-hit night, picking up right where they left off in Game 3, as they put up crooked numbers in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th innings and coasted to victory. Another home run for Sabo, and another triple for Sabo. Roberto Kelly tripled twice in this game. John Smiley gave up 2 runs in the first and then sailed through 8 innings to pick up the win in that one. So that is your Reds highlights for the week. And before we go, since we are now officially at the All-Star break, let's take a look at what the All-Star teams would look like. We don't traditionally do an All-Star game in the Historical Baseball Project, but if we were to do that, let's see what the All-Star teams would look like. We will start with the National League. And the leading vote getter for the All-Star game and the MVP thus far would be Barry Bonds, followed closely by his teammates, Mitch Williams and Robbie Thompson. All 3 of those guys would get the starting nods, and the starting pitcher would be Bill Swift. Now, in the Stratomatic economy, they don't distribute All-Star spots by, 1 to every team as they do in the regular major leagues. So as a result, there are no Cincinnati Reds eligible on the All-Star roster. Lots of Giants, lots of Braves. The Braves pitching staff, they've got 4 of the top 5 Cy Young contenders behind Bill Swift. Jay Bell for the last place Pirates. I don't know what he's doing in there, as Barry Larkin is certainly having a nice season for Cincinnati. But those would be your All-Stars for the National League. In the American League, let's take a look at what the All-Star teams would look like there. And no surprise in your MVP voting, Griffey and Gonzalez 1 and 2, and trailing behind them Danny Tartabull, Baltimore catcher Chris Hoyles, and Travis Fryman. Alex Fernandez would win your Cy Young if the league ended today, with Apier and Finley right up there alongside. So for your All-Stars, it would be Gonzalez in left, Griffey in center, Tartabull in right, Alex Fernandez your starting pitcher. Around the infield, John Olerud and Roberto Alomar from the Blue Jays. Travis Fryman at third, Greg Gagne for Kansas City. It would be your starting shortstop, and Chris Hoyles behind the plate. It's easy to confuse the baseball player Greg Gagne with the Minnesota professional wrestler Greg Gagne, the son of Vern Gagne, spelled the same, pronounced differently. So that's why I stumbled over that name. And that would be your starting lineups for the American League were there to be an All-Star game in the 1993 season. All right, that is it for this week in the Historical Baseball Project. Next week, we have a bunch of games. The Rangers have a total of 10 home games in the 2 weeks following the All-Star game. They will play host to the Detroit Tigers for 4 games. Then Milwaukee comes to town for 2 games. And then the Toronto Blue Jays come to town for another 4-game set. The Reds have 7 home games, including 4 against the Florida Marlins and 3 against the Chicago Cubs. All right, everybody, that is it for this week's recap of the Historical Baseball Project action. This has been Dave Little, recording from the Dave Cave with this week's highlights. Thank you all for joining me. That's our stream, and I am out of here.